Here we go, right here.
Okay, there's a lot of mythological overlap in the Dresden Files, like Odin and Kringle, the names used to summon Mother Nature. I was wondering if that worked on a racial level, like that scene in Changes where Toot called himself a Polaroid, Sonny called him a Dome Boy. And I know there's like a lot of, in mythology, there's a lot of races, kind of like the Fae, like trickster, shapeshifter and stuff. Are they like any connected to the Winter or Summer Courts? Are they involved with the war with the outsiders, or like the yokai?
Okay, let me see if I can rephrase this so that I don't just start talking and nobody knows the question. He's asking about the use of a lot of different mythologies in the Dresden Files, and does that extend to a racial/cultural level, like when Sonya met up with Tutu, called him the Domovoid. And yes, it does. I always I constructed the mythology of the Dresden Files to be inclusive rather than exclusive, and to figure out a way that I could make everything all work together in one big thing. So a lot of it is that there is a certain amount of supernatural activity or certain kind of supernatural being that's out there that a lot of different people have run into and have taken something different away from the encounter. My general theory of the supernatural stuff in the Dresden Files is that it's a blind man and the elephant situation for us. That's why you've got 3 different courts of vampires, but you've got the Hollywood vampire that looks a little bit like all of them, because the Hollywood vampire is the construct of people who have sort of survived encounters with vampires, in certain situations. So yeah, I mean that was the whole idea. There's some things that are very specific, but not everything is. A lot of things are just somebody from 5th century China saw this supernatural thing, and somebody else from 18th century America saw it, and they look like very different things to them, not because their thing is different, but because they're from different backgrounds. Right over here.
My question is not about the Dresden series, actually. It's about your Codex Valora.
That's fine.
Is your steampunk actually tied in with that?
Is the new steampunk series tied in with the Codex books? No, it isn't. I originally considered doing that, but decided that I was going to have more fun once I started putting things together. I decided to have more fun in an all-new world. So the steampunk books will be out. I'm not sure when. I've got to finish writing one. It would have been done already because I had 3 weeks between the time I got back from Australia and the beginning of the tour. But did you know that teeth can explode, all by themselves? Teeth can explode. I didn't know it either. I mean, it's horrible. But anyway, I spent about 3 weeks on medically sanctioned opiates for this horrible dental thing, and I honestly meant to get the rest of the book written during that time. But I find myself sitting there with the laptop on my lap and thinking, I've just got done watching 3 hours of the Weather Channel, and it's still interesting. I mean, I know that there are artists out there who blend drugs and creativity, but obviously I'm not one of them. Anyway, but that'll be coming later. Right back here.
So, why did you decide to kill Lash when you did?
Why did I decide to kill Lash when I did?
Yes.
Because it was the right place for her to go. There's a lot of people there's a lot of times in these books where I'm writing along, and I don't specifically have plans for somebody to be dead. But then I'm in the process of writing the scene, and I go, yep, this is the only way this can possibly fall out and work. Golly, and I was kind of respecting you, Susan. But this is how it has to work out. I'm not feeling any mercy for people who are that many books behind. I'm willing to spoil anything up to Cold Days, but Skin Game is the new one. Back here, black shirt.
Black shirt.
Has Molly Carpenter always been a key character to me, and have I ever considered removing her from the book series? No, she was there for comic relief when I started writing it. And then I realized what had to happen with her because it was such great conflict. Okay, you have to understand that basically when I'm writing the books and I'm writing along, one of the first things that one of the first paths in the decision tree that I have whenever I'm deciding on what's going to happen for the story is, will this make Dresden's life more complicated? And if the answer is yes, then that's a good first step. So the whole thing with Molly and Michael and the parents, that was a great. It's like, oh no, because Charity's just going to hate that. Yeah, that'd be perfect. So anyway, that was where Molly came from. And now, now she's. And once I realized she was in the series, I'm like, aha! There are things in store for her, and I started creating that. And then we got to where we are now, which is something that we'll see a little bit more of in book 16. So. Yeah, right here.
Is Bob going to get a girlfriend?
Is Bob going to get a girlfriend? That is a sneaky, you are trying to backdoor a spoiler in there. So. I am going to give you no answer to that.
Are you going to write about the Jade Court?
Am I going to write about the Jade Court? We might kind of find out more about them. They probably are not going to show up because they're very, very serious Chinese isolationists. Actually, they're not Chinese isolationists, they're Chin isolationists. They think this new China fad is just, it might not last. So, you don't ever see them leave the Yangtze Valley, but you might see one of their agents. Back here, in the blue shirt.
When you a lot of different characters have very different backgrounds in your books, and trying to craft a character whose background is so different from yours, and just almost like problems a lot that you in the past. How are you able to sort of go about writing such an actor or that faithful
Okay, when you're writing characters whose background is so different from yours and who have gone through things that you haven't, how do you go about writing that character faithfully? How do you extrapolate that into a character that people get? You pretend a lot. It helps if you've spent a good portion of your life pretending things. Writing really is just me playing D&D with my invisible friends and then writing it down. You try and find sources of experience in your own life that you can somehow draw parallels to, even if it's something a great deal more significant. More significant and or traumatic has happened to your character. You've got to have something where you can feel along the way. Okay, for instance, when I was a kid growing up, I got beat up a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean like a couple of times, 2 or 3 times a month. Basically every time they could catch me. I was a pretty good rabbit, but I had the bad taste to be the smallest kid in my class and the smartest kid in my class. And it's possible that I might not have known when to shut up. So I got to be very, very good at running and being a very difficult to catch opponent. But I also figured out what it was like, because there were times when I was just scared, and when I knew that there were guys coming at me who were going to hurt me if they caught me. And that went on until I was 13 to learn to communicate with bullies, when a guy at the bike rack pulled a knife on me. And I freaked out and started, I had a bike chain right there, but I freaked out and started hitting him with my bike. Like the bike overhead like this, and screaming at the top of my lungs. And after that, I never had to fight bullies anymore. which was really an odd thing. But anyway, let's go over here. Lecture.
Are we ever going to hear any more about Harry's dad?
Are we ever going to hear any more about Harry's dad? Probably a little, probably not a whole lot. Right here.
How does Kringle's gift-giving nature work with his fey nature?
How does Kringle's gift-giving nature work with his fey nature? For him, they're one and the same.
Okay.
That's his function.
Well, how does the exchanging of gifts? Because fey normally require an exchange of gifts, whereas Kringle doesn't. At least the mythology behind Santa Claus doesn't seem to be that way.
Well, but Kringle is getting a gift out of that. He's getting the faith of all those children. He's performing his function as a dispenser of justice in that role. Santa Claus isn't a she as much as he is sort of a minor deity that only children really get on with. It's probably softened Vadarung up an awful lot, But let's see, blue shirt back here.
How much does Lashio know about Harry
Harry's interaction with Lash?
How much does Lashiel know about Harry's interactions with Lash? Everything. Right here.
In terms of being a knight, whether it's a knight of the cross, a knight of the black and Denarius, or a fairy knight, just how much beyond a vanilla human can one be to be that sort of knight? Are there any disadvantages to being superhuman, and is it the same for those 3 kinds of knights?
Good. You're a gamer, sir. Okay, the question is, when it comes to being a knight, whether you're a knight of the sword, or a knight of the black and Denarius, or a fairy knight, how far beyond vanilla human can you be and still do that? And is there a conflict of interest there? It's not necessarily a case of being beyond or being on a scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as existing on a slightly different bandwidth than a normal, on a slightly different frequency than a normal mortal does. And it's possible that the frequency that you exist on might be one that interacts strangely with the frequency of whatever knighthood you're picking up. And bits of that I'm not going to answer because we'll see later in the books. But anyway, let's see right here.
Speaking of sneaky questions, how long has a nemesis that Harry's run into in Cold Days been out on Earth, so to speak?
How long has a nemesis who we met in the last book been operating on Earth since the beginning? And I've already. Oh wait, you the Star Fleet chair. Okay.
Why Chicago?
Why Chicago? That's a fair question. Why Chicago? Because my writing teacher wouldn't let me write it in Kansas City, which is my hometown, where I set the first story. She says, you are already walking close enough to Laurel Hamilton's toes that you don't need to set this in Missouri to boot. So pick another city. There was a globe on her desk. There were 4 American cities on the globe. I didn't want to use New York because the superheroes have that all sewn up. I didn't want to use DC because if you use DC, you've got to do politics and you lose half the audience, period. I didn't want to use Los Angeles because then I'd have to learn about Los Angeles. So I said, how about Chicago? She says, fine, great, wherever, just not Missouri. I said, okay, Chicago it is, and that's why it's Chicago. You're welcome. Let's try one on the balcony. Up here, man, with the coffee cup. Am I willing to do a short story from Mouse's point of view? This is the problem of writing kids and animals. They just upstage. I don't know if I'll do a short story from Mouse's point of view, but I am kind of thinking about a young adult series starring Mouse and Maggie. In my copious spare time. But I'm thinking about doing that because that would be fun. But anyway, let's get somebody. Maybe is there somebody? All right, you sir.
Wizards and technology. Do you plan to explore the more sciencey aspect of why they don't play well with each other?
Am I going to explore the more sciencey aspect of why wizards and technology don't play well with each other? Yeah, we'll get more into that because now Butters is on the job with this sort of thing, and he's actually interested in that kind of stuff. So in his copious spare time, we'll be working on that. Back here in the gray shirt.
I assume that when you're writing, you've got the voices of the characters in your head, and you have a fabulous narrator in your audiobooks, like Marster.
Yeah, that Marster.
So I'm just curious, now that he's been reading them for so long, do you have his voice as narrator? Or do you still have kind of a unique voice for him on your own?
No, I don't really have it in my head because I don't hear real well, and so I don't do audiobooks. I mean, like at all. I'll listen to them once in a while and just kind of appreciate him and go, aha, he did a great job with that. But it's not something I listen to all the time. So they're still, I guess they're still kind of my characters. I really like the job he's done though. And when he was reading Skin Game, I made him cry, so that was awesome. Yes, I made Spike the Vampire cry. Yes, sir, at the back in the ball cap. Are we ever going to see more when Dresden was training with Justin? No, but we will see him training with some of the senior guys now in the future. So, Let's see. Let's do the balcony again. Up here in the blue shirt.
Spoilers, I'll dance around with stuff. Given who the ultimate target is for Squid Game, and the person who has all the stuff, are we ever going to see, or are you going to add any psyops of that type of nature, mythology, or...
Oh, you mean like Percy Jackson style? I don't know, maybe. That could possibly be doable, although I don't want to take away from, because actually I'm planning on just having them show up. We're talking about the Greek gods, obviously. But yeah, man, I'm just planning on having them show up eventually. That's not till like book 19, though. You know, you gotta pace yourself on these things. Right here on the stairs.